I'm Scott Al Miller. It is the 13th of November, 2022, and this is my vlog of daily life in Leon, Nicaragua, and I am doing a number of recordings from here in the courtyard because I've done a lot of damage to my right foot, the one that I broke back in May, and I keep pushing on, and I thought it was getting a lot better, and then I went out dancing a couple weeks ago, and it is in terrible shape. So I guess it was 1 week ago. So I'm trying to baby it and not do a lot of walks around the neighborhood because the neighborhood has a lot of uneven steps and sidewalks and cobblestones, and it just takes the smallest bit to put pressure on the part of my foot where it really hurts. I actually don't feel like I have bone damage at this point. I feel like I have significant soft tissue damage. So it doesn't seem like something really tragic, but it's quite painful, and it's really easy for me to aggravate it. So I'm taking the opportunity to spend some time here in the courtyard and record here instead of somewhere else where I'm walking around, which I know is not as interesting, but one of the things that's going on is that we're moving very soon. We've got less than 3 weeks until we're in our new house. And when we're in the new house, we're going to have lots of new spaces for me to record around the house and also lots of new stuff for me to walk to that's easy for me to get to. Like my location is going to change. Not dramatically. We're not moving really far away. It's just a few minutes. But when I walk out the door and walk around real quickly around the neighborhood, that stuff's going to be a different neighborhood. So that'll be all new stuff. So now that we are going to be leaving here pretty soon, I don't feel so badly getting a little bit more recording done here in the courtyard because you're not going to get that tired of it. At most, I can do about 20 episodes still here, and I'm not going to do them all here. I'm just going to mix them in some, and maybe I'll do a few ahead, especially for my other channel where it really doesn't matter because no one's watching it to see where I am anyway. This morning started off with Paul and Dominica heading out to the new house to speak to the owners. So the owner is actually someone famous enough to be in Wikipedia, and she came down from the United States where she lives to deal with the house and get everything ready for it. We're having the house completely repainted and a bunch of other things gotten ready for us before we move in. And they offered to do a bunch of like removing furniture, which we are having done, and a bunch of removing like potted plants and stuff, which we are not having done. We want to keep all the plants and stuff, and we're going to help keep working with their gardener to like get plants along the trellises and stuff like that. Trelli, I don't know what the plural of trellis is. It's a beautiful, beautiful property with lots of old trees. We found out that the house is 40 years old. The condition makes it feel much younger. The style makes it feel much older. It's essentially a colonial that was built more recently, but definitely outside of the colonial zone, so it doesn't have to follow any particular colonial guidelines, but it gives that vibe. So it's interesting to know that it's 40 years old, so we know a little bit about its provenance. We are also the very first renters of it, which is really neat. This is one of the well-known classic Leon homes, and so that we're going to be in one that no one else except for the family who built it has ever used is pretty cool, and we're really excited. It's really going to be a great opportunity for us. Earlier in the week, I had spoken to Dominica and said, you know what, I really think is one of our big challenges is we're going to be farther from food. Right now, we are perfect for walking to food. I mean, we have restaurants across the street, 2 blocks away. The downtown restaurants are just a few minutes away. It's so easy for us to go out to eat. But a continuous challenge, and I've mentioned this before, of Leon, and it is one of the bigger negatives of living here, is that the food is very repetitive. There's a few places that stand out as having a lot of variety, such as Sua and Sundance, but they're the exception, not the norm, and they don't have the biggest menus, so the number of times that we can go there is limited. Because remember, we're vegetarians, so Sua still only has a handful of, they have more vegetarian than other places, but they don't have a ton. So if we go there, we tend to get the same couple items over and over again. And that becomes food exhaustion for us. And we need to go out to restaurants quite a bit because, for one, I'm really busy. Even though I'm home with the kids all the time, in theory, I could cook, but I work all the time. I work a full-time job that is exhausting on top of doing this channel. And this is just one of many channels that I do. Many of you don't realize or do not pay attention necessarily that I have other channels that are essentially as busy as this one. This is not my biggest channel, but it is the one that gets the most videos. And I have several other channels that don't get anywhere near as much work done on them, but this isn't my main channel. And so for this to be so much time of my day, it's quite difficult to find any extra time to feed the kids. And if I do that, I miss videos. Like that's all it takes. Because it seems like, well, what does it take? 20 minutes to feed the kids? Well, sort of. It takes an hour to figure out what the kids want. It takes 20 minutes to get them fed. And all of that comes at my prime work time for both doing videos and for my office job during the day. So it's a major problem. It causes a cascade of events. I'm often interrupting something I was doing at work and interrupting, then work will interrupt me doing the cooking. And there's been days where I spent 4 hours constantly going back trying to start the stove just to get their food made. So it causes a lot of problems. So, and Dominica's constantly working at the beach. She's been running the hotel for the last few months, and Paul is always out running errands. Like, we are actually really busy all the time. And by nighttime, I'm still working, and Dominica is exhausted if she's here. Like, the ability to feed the kids is very, very difficult. And the kids really struggle with even what we have in the house. Like, the number of things that I can make is very low. I am not a cook by any stretch. I will make them food, but it's a problem. So I said to Dominica, now that we're going to be farther from the center of town, our food lack of options is going to explode. We're going from already a difficult situation to an extremely difficult one. Yes, we'll still have Hugo and Pedidos Ya, but my ability to just walk out and get food will be gone. It'll be all but impossible. Very, very difficult. I said, what I want is I want a full-time private chef in the house. And she said, oh my gosh, that is the answer. Why didn't we think of that before? And suddenly the sun is out really bright. It was kind of overcast when I started. Now we're getting some harsh light, so sorry about that. And the reality is, now we'll see when we do it, but the reality is if we take our food budget for the month and look at how we're spending it today and look at the cost of a private chef, and of course you have to buy more groceries and all that, we actually think it's going to be a cost reduction, not a cost increase to do that. So supplying a job, and because the new house is very large, we have room if we want to have a live-in chef. That is completely possible. It will reduce our monthly cost rather than increasing it, which is counterintuitive, especially to Americans who are like, how is that possible? Like, no one could possibly eat that much in a month to make it make sense. But we are 5 people who will be eating nearly all their meals in the house and currently eat most of them outside the house. And the cost of us doing the shopping for that is very high as well. And so switching to a personal chef who is doing the shopping as well, but that's about the only extra duty, making as many as 15 unique meals during the day, 6 days a week, and only having 1 day a week in which we need to go out to eat or cook for ourselves or whatever, has a lot of potential to not just reduce cost, but potentially cut it in half. Probably not that much, but it will reduce it a noticeable amount, we believe, while making our lives much easier, allowing us to work much more, and most importantly, accelerating the healthiness of our meals significantly. Because right now, when you go out to eat, it tends to be creamy or fried or whatever they have that we're able to eat as vegetarians, which is very limited. And the girls have been asking for more veggies, for more fruit. They want healthier options, but those things take time to prepare and are hard for us to find because it's not easy for us to go to the local markets. But having a private chef, they can easily go to the local markets, get that stuff at very low cost, prepare it at home. And so things that I'm not able to make for myself during the middle of the day, yes, I know how to saute vegetables. I don't have time to do that. But having a chef who can saute a bunch of vegetables for me, make something that's really healthy, and bring it to me or just tell me when it's ready so I can step out of my office and grab it is a really big deal. It is a game changer for all of us for health. And we know that this works because back when we lived in Texas in 2011 to 2013, we had a private club, La Cima, there in Irving, that we were members at, and we had a private chef when we were there, Chris. And having Chris as a private chef, while more expensive than cooking at home, was actually roughly break even with going out to normal restaurants, but it was a very fancy restaurant setting and we got excellent high quality custom made food. He knew exactly what my dietary requirements were, and at the time it was really only me and the family because I was doing a very lean diet and the family was vegetarian. Now I have my very lean diet, but Dominica is allergic to onions and cebolla, or green pepper as it's normally known, and needs to keep some things like carrots and cilantro to a minimum. She can eat them, but she can't just like pile them on. She can't just pile on the garlic, but she can have quite a bit. But a lot of restaurants here, when they avoid onions, they go for garlic. And a lot of places simply have nothing that isn't onions and chitoma. And so without them, there's so many restaurants that have even vegetarian food for me that she can't eat because her it's technically not an allergy, it's an extreme sensitivity. It is not life-threatening, but it is crippling effectively if she was to eat an onion, for say, that it really makes going out to eat extremely hard between the vegetarian and the vegetable requirements. This will solve that. A private chef who knows all those things mean we're going to get big variety of healthy food while having way more time and less stress while saving money. It's not the kind of thing you think would happen when you come from America and like you can just never do that cost effectively. But here it is a completely different animal. It is going to be great. And we mentioned it to Paul and he's like, oh my gosh, why didn't we think of this before? Yes, that's the answer. Of course, having a different house with a bigger kitchen and more supplies, all of that plays into making it easier to do because the new place has way more space. And if we end up having a live-in chef, which we're hoping, it makes it that much easier for the dogs because they don't need care for necessarily. They're very self-sufficient from a care perspective, but they need to know someone is around all the time. They may need someone to open doors or whatever, but the new place is double walled. There is so much security. There is an outside wall. There is an inside wall. Those walls are covered in plants, so it's not even visible, let alone can something go through it. And there's full-time security on the community side. So the only gate has someone stationed at it. And then if we have people who are inside the house all the time, because we already have a housekeeper all day, if we then have a chef who's just staying there at night, they don't have to be doing anything. The dogs, even when we're not there, the dogs never are alone. And they don't need to be walked because they have loads of space. And I mean, for real, acres and acres of space that they can just run and run and run. It is going to be so perfect for them. We're going to be able to leave them. We're going to be able to do things much cheaper. It's really so much better. So they were out this morning. All of that they were out this morning talking to the owner of the new house and making the final plans for all the little things that are going to be touched up and fixed or changed, left behind or whatever, and making all those contacts so that when we want to move forward with, we would like to make a change. She already told us, if you want to do this kind of change, just do it. Right? No problem. You're already approved. But other things, like they don't want gas in the house because it could blow the house up. So they have outdoor gas with gas piped in, which is perfect. So nice. So little things like that, but there's things we may not have known. So they dealt with all of that this morning. Then they ran a delivery over to Alan and Anna, and on the way back, picked me up, and we headed off to Desayunazo to have breakfast, or kind of lunch. It was breakfast at lunch is really what it was. And we also picked up a bunch of cinnamon rolls for the family. We dropped Marcella off at the bus terminal. She is heading back. She's been up here working for the weekend. She was doing stuff at the hotel over the weekend. And dropped her off while we had the car. Came back, and I spent the rest of the afternoon working. It is Sunday, in case I didn't say that, and you're not tracking, but this does release on the 1 week afterwards. So if you're watching this on the day, you know it's Sunday. And sorry for all the noise. I'm hoping it's not too bad. I'm testing out recording. When it looks like this, I'm recording on the Olympus OMD EM1 Mark II, which I absolutely love using, and this gives me a great excuse to use it. In the new house, I'm going to be able to use it so much more. You're going to see cool camera setups because of that. But I've noticed that the audio coming off my Tascam recorder is just so superior to everything else. And honestly, with Final Cut Pro, it's so easy now that I know what I'm doing. That's the biggest key. Getting Scott to where he knows what he's doing is kind of the trick to things. But now that I know what I'm doing with Final Cut Pro, I'm able to really easily take the Olympus footage and take the Tascam recorder and automatically sync them together, and it sounds fantastic. I love the Tascam. So one of my plans when we get back or go to the United States and then bring back, I plan to get another full-size tripod because the one I use currently is heavy and old. Does the job. Thank you, Eric, who pulled it out of the trash at University of Rochester 22 years ago and said, look at this tripod I found in the trash. You want it? That has been my commercial tripod for 22 years. Like, it was like a $800 tripod that someone had thrown in the trash, and it was about to go through a crushing machine, and it's perfectly good. There's nothing wrong with it. After 22 years, there's nothing wrong with it. But I need multiple tripods, and I need one that's a little bit more waterproof and way lighter that can go on my backpack, which I'll do a video on Camera Cafe at some point to show off my backpack. But I need that to be able to move around. And for a lot of things like this, if I had two tripods, I can have this, because I'm actually quite some distance from the camera. This is a 25 millimeter lens on Micro Four Thirds, so it's a 50 millimeter equivalent focal length. I actually have a table in front of me with the Tascam pointed up at me, so I'm hoping that that works out pretty well for sound. But what I'm planning on doing is be able to have another tripod so I can actually have the microphone right out of camera, right below, but still be able to move around and not have it attached to me, and that I think gives some of the best sound, because when I do this, it's in stereo. When I record on the lavalier, it's mono. Like, it sounds good and it's clear, but this gives like spatial awareness to the sound, and it does such a good job. The Tascam recorder, if you're looking for something to record audio and you just want to be cost effective but have that amazing sound, and you don't want to like build an entire audio system, the Tascam portable recorders with the built-in dual mics are just, they're wonderful. It's my second one. The other one got crushed, like literally in luggage in an airport, and and it still works, but it like has loose plastic in it rolling around, not things you want with audio. But if I had to use it, it'll technically still work with this one, this new one, just amazing. And supposedly I can hook it up and use it as a microphone on my desktop, but I haven't played with any features like that yet. I just use it as a normal portable recorder, and it is perfect. I recommend it so much. So I spent the afternoon getting videos done. There was a lot to do. So I got about 3 edited and published today in the hopes that Valentina will be able to get thumbnails ready for you guys early in the morning. And I'm at that point where I'm really racing, because now I'm putting out 2 videos per day for this channel, plus the other channels are active, plus we're doing the shorts on this channel, and it is exhausting, but the channel's just exploding. Although we're not losing in the big sense, but we are not gaining new subscribers at a pace we would expect. Something happened with the video where we discussed vaccines. Wow, was it noticeable? Like 20 people left the channel right there. Like never before have we had a decrease in followers on the channel, and right at that moment when we discussed it, boom, just gone. It was the biggest drop in 5 years of making the channel. And since then, we've been climbing back again, but it's still not at the pace that we would expect as before. So not sure, we're not getting any feedback from anybody, so I have no idea what's happening. And Twitter, of course, is going way down, but that's because of the Musk culling. I don't think that kind of stuff is affecting YouTube, but maybe YouTube is going through something similar and cleaning out accounts. No idea. But that stuff is going on, which reminds me, take a moment, like and subscribe if you are not subscribed to the channel. It only takes a second. This comes out every day, 7 o'clock in the morning, local time here in Central America. If you are East Coast, that's like, I think 8 o'clock in the morning right now. Normally 9 with your daylight savings makes it all weird. And right now we're doing extra shows, but normally it's 1 episode every morning, and this is my life in Central America, and it's all over the map. Some days we talk about Nicaragua, some days we talk about housing, sometimes we talk about tech, sometimes we talk about cameras, sometimes we just talk about playing video games and going out to eat. Who knows? But take a moment, subscribe. It makes so much of a difference. Hit that like button. That really does do things. That tells YouTube that you are enjoying the show. There's a link down below to buy me a coffee. That comes directly to me. That really does allow me to afford things like the cameras and the microphone so that I can make this show for you, and my addiction to buying motion VFX special effects for the show. I have a problem. Valentina's supposed to stop me, but she's not managing to do so. And you'll see things popping up from time to time and be like, that seems like a new, did he have that before? No, I didn't. I keep buying things. And remember to share on social media, because I don't have Facebook, so that gets the word out. And of course, we have this great community of people discussing Nicaraguan travel and camera and all those kinds of things. Investing gets discussed down there. Ask your questions, leave your comments, get engaged. I really do. I try to answer everybody that I can. I don't answer political questions. Like, there are certain things I'm not going to be drawn into. I know some of them are legit, some of them are not. I don't want to be in a position of making that judgment call, and I certainly don't want this to stop being the awesome, friendly discussion that it is. So once in a while, I intentionally ignore those. All the time, though, YouTube is blocking a lot of content. So I don't know about those, but I do know that a lot gets blocked, and I've had it mentioned before, because there's a lot of subjects that are just not supposed to be there. And sometimes people try to get past the filters, I know. It's just putting gibberish in and hoping a link makes it or whatever. But for the most part, YouTube filters those out. But if you're putting in normal comments looking for real information, in almost all cases, I will get right back to you, whether it's about housing or Nicaragua or travel or safety or cameras or whatever. All right, so this evening, after spending the day doing a bunch of work, and this is really exciting, I talked to my daughter Liesel today, who is 13, going on 14. She's getting very close. And she has been really interested in video game design. That's like a big thing for her. She loves that kind of stuff, and she's really interested in video editing, and she watches a lot of like YouTube camera shows with me, and she's the one that does the photo walks with me. She's into cameras, she's into photography, she's into videography, and she's been doing a lot of hand animation type stuff with editing. But it's different editing hand animation compared to video, because you simply animate what you want and you don't really need to edit it. Or if you look at it another way, everything's an edit, but it's different one way or another. With video, live video, you have to record a bunch of stuff and then create what you want out of that. Mine are actually pretty lightly edited, but I cut off the beginning to make sure you don't get dead air. I trim the end so you don't see me walking to the camera. If I sneeze, I try to take that out of the middle. If I'm putting different segments together, I try to make those at least flow a little bit. I don't make it fancy or anything because I'm edited. Like, there's no need to be fancy. But we also have the titles and the outros and the little subscribe buttons and stuff that come up to help you remember to support the channel one way or another. And all that takes a little bit of effort. And it's hours per day per video that I have to do to edit that. And Liesl is really excited to get started in doing that and helping out the channel, both because she wants to help me out and because it's a great way for us to spend time together doing a project together, and because she's really interested in video editing. To that end, I use Final Cut Pro, and everything I do is done on a Mac Mini M1. It's one of the new ARM-based Macs, new being 2 years old. It is amazing. I'm so happy with it. I still don't like macOS, but it's usable. It's not like it used to be. It used to be really garbage. Now it's usable, but I love the hardware and the ecosystem. So we also use iPhones and iPads. Going forward, I've decided I am giving up my Linux laptop. That is going to go to Luciana, who needs it for her programming and video game classes, because she, like her sister, is studying that. And I'm going to get a Mac. This is my plan. I told Dominic I'm going to do it. When we go back for Christmas, I'm going to get a MacBook Air, the thin ones with the M2 processor. Otherwise, basically the same specs as my Mac Mini, but with the faster processor. And I'm sure everything's beefed up a little bit, but the M2 is the really big deal. So I have even more processing power, which makes editing the show that much easier. It also has a 4K display, which I don't have on any of my computing devices. My TVs are 4K, but I do all my editing on a 1080p screen, and I have to edit with like a screen full of stuff. And I'm looking at this tiny little window of the video, and I'm only on a quarter of the resolution of the thing I'm editing to begin with. It's a little bit difficult to see what I'm editing. So going up to a 4 times resolution screen from what I have now and a brighter one, even though it's smaller, should help with a lot of the video editing, make my life a little bit easier. But way more processing power. And because it's Mac, I just have to get one little tool and it'll allow the two Macs to share processing jobs between them. So when I'm doing renders for you guys, I can keep working on a video while the other machine renders, but they do it all together. Some of that stuff is really cool, and I like that. So we're going to make that investment is the plan so that I can bring these shows to you much more easily. And Liesl's really looking to get involved. She thinks that she can handle making the daily video for now, because these are pretty predictable how it's going to be edited. There's not a lot of, decision making. It's more of just tweaking carefully, and she's ready to do that. And she's already like, you're not putting enough time into this. This little thing pops up at the wrong time. You should have waited 10 seconds and it would have fit better. It's like, oh yes, you're right. I don't have time to do that, but you should totally do that. So we're really hopeful that that's going to work out for her. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. After that, this evening, I helped Liesl yesterday with her math. Today we took the day off, but we're hoping to get into a vibe of doing math together every day because she really struggles with it, and but when I help her, because I'm an analogy man, it seems to work really well, and she takes to it really quickly, and so we're starting to do that as a daily thing, but not today. Tonight, for dinner, Paul, Dominic, and I went out to Barbaro, which is actually one of our favorite restaurants in the city. It's just typically really loud and pretty expensive because it is a fancy restaurant. But so we went out for steak and salmon. Decided the girls love their salmon so much, so we ended up getting 4 salmon dinners and bringing that back for them. If you watch my shorts, you can see the salmon on there that I had. We also tried the chocolate mousse for the first time, and it is fantastic. It is definitely made from actual melted chocolate. Worth checking out. So that's one of the places that we go for variety in the city, but we won't need to go nearly as often once we have our own private chef who can make salmon at home and grill steaks and everything at home, because we're going to have the grill. We have a big oven that we're bringing with us. We have a lot of kitchen supplies. We even have an ice maker that we just got this week. So we're ready for a private chef. It's going to make a huge difference for us. It's funny, I thought today was going to be a really light episode, but I've been talking as fast as I can for 25 minutes without taking a break whatsoever because I had so much to tell you, and I don't want this to overrun the recording limit on the Olympus, so I've been going really fast. But that is our day. Tomorrow's Monday. Going to be busy with work. I've got a lot of projects going on, so going to be headed there. Thanks for joining me. Like and subscribe, all that stuff. We did it earlier. Please take the time to do that. It matters a lot. Thanks for joining me. I will see all of you tomorrow.